Good morning, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Lori, thank you for putting this together. Gil Cabrera, I'm running for city attorney. Victims of violence generally deserve justice and deserve to be treated with respect. But victims of sexual violence, like no other victim, are not treated that way. They're often blamed. They are re-victimized by the system that is supposed to actually protect them and find justice for them. And so I want to thank Lori for bringing this important observance to us in San Diego, and it is something that I'll be committed to continuing on as well. The testing of rape kits is something that when you tell people that there is a backlog of rape kits that need to be tested, most people are just shocked and appalled by it, for the simple reason that it is a moral failing of our city that we are not up to speed and testing all rape kits as they're brought in, so that the victims understand that we are there for them. So I stand with Lori and I stand with my friend Brian and everyone here to call on the mayor and the city attorney and the chief of police to make this a priority in our city.
My name is Brian Pease, also running for city attorney, and this is an issue that, of course, all candidates and all political parties and people all along the political spectrum can get behind the idea that we shouldn't have a backlog of rape kits sitting in an evidence locker somewhere. It is an absolute moral failing of our city if we're allowing this to continue, and everybody at all levels, whether people who are running for office or who are in office and members of the community, should all be speaking out and should be outraged that more is not being done to process these rape kits in a timely manner, because with DNA evidence we can actually solve a lot of these crimes, and to just be disregarding that is absolutely shameful. So I'm here to support Lori in her quest to bring more attention to this issue. Thanks.
Thank you. We also have some women who have expertise in this area, retired Police Sergeant Ann Odell, and let me have you step over here so you have better sound.
I'm so pleased to see that Lori is inaugurating this Denim Day. It's so important to me. In 1992, I created the first domestic violence detective division at San Diego PD, and it became a model across not just the country, but the world. And you're hearing things about how this crime of sexual assault is not investigated the way that even domestic violence is. And there's a reason for that. So many things, so many obstacles are in the way of people trying to get justice after they've been sexually assaulted. There's charges of it was consensual, and even if you have DNA on that, that's a blockage right there. I think one of the most important things we can do is educate the public, though. I fear that the public still looks at sexual assault and thinks of stranger danger. They think that strangers are the ones that are attacking women and men in our communities, and that's really not true. It happens very rarely. In fact, most sexual assaults, over 80% of them, are committed by people that this victim knows, in particular people they go to school with. And I'm bringing this up because it's very personal to me. I have 10 granddaughters and I have 10 grandsons. Many of them are going to college for the first time now. And I want to refer you to a documentary called The Hunting Ground. You can see it on Netflix, you can see it on YouTube, and it's such an educational documentary about what really happens on campuses. The fact that so many of these sexual assaults are not reported, and when they are reported, these victims are put through basically hell trying to get some justice. So for my own granddaughters and your granddaughters and your granddaughters and grandsons, I'm asking you to do everything you can to learn about the issue of sexual assault, and then you'll be in a position to really put pressure on the Justice Department locally and the mayor's office to do what's right. So thank you again for listening.
Thank you, Ann.
Hello, I'm Suzanne Morris. I'm with an organization, Heartfelt Voices United, that uses film and stage plays to bring awareness to sexual assault and domestic violence. I happen to have a lot of information about the backlogs. Back in the early 2000s, the actress of Law and Order SVU was doing research for one of her shows and discovered that there was close to 200,000 rape kits in this country that are sitting in backlogs, and she started a campaign. One of the things I wanted to do was just really quickly bring to you some statistics to make you understand how important what Lori is doing. First of all, every 107 seconds, someone is sexually assaulted in the U.S. These are Department of Justice facts. That means during this conference for an hour, 34 people will be sexually assaulted while we're standing here. For the kids, that 1 in 6 women and 1 in 33 men will be sexually assaulted. 15% of the sexual assault victims are under the age of 12 years old, 126,000 children, and 30% of those are between the ages of 4 and 7 years old. There's a lot of questions about consent. Do you know of anyone at age 4 to 7 that could give consent to such things? The rape kit basically is a forensic exam that a victim goes through after being violated that lasts 4 to 6 hours as they take parts off of their body. This is an invasive process. And imagine an invasive process for 4 to 6 hours and it's thrown into a thing and nothing is done about it. The reason for the reason they say for backlog is crime lab resources, lack of funding. However, we have a solution for that, which I want to mention. Police resources, they say they lack the ability to know what to do with them, but mostly it's discretion, whether they think it's worth processing or not. So here's the situation. San Diego, as of June 2015, the end of backlog has recorded that there are 2,873 rape kits that are sitting in backlog that have not been processed. The organization Joyful Heart Foundation we are trying to contact them to maybe do a more recent figure, but that is what it's standing at right now, 2,873. That is on their website at www.endthebacklog.org. The good news is that there are other cities that have solved this problem. New York City solved it. They are serving as a model. You have Detroit, Cleveland, and Memphis currently working on the problem, and Los Angeles is completely caught up. So that it can be done. In December of 2015, Congress passed a spending bill of $45 million that if a jurisdiction such as San Diego applies, they can receive funding to clear up the kit. So there is no longer a funding problem. And the other thing is that the Joyful Heart Foundation will work with the jurisdiction to help them realize the best way to do it. So there's a lot of expertise as well. So,
Thank you.
And thank you that you are finally taking it on. I have been trying to talk to city council people. I have been trying to talk to, and I've gotten resistance, and it's so wonderful to see you are ready to do this.
It's time.
Yeah.
It's time to do this.
Yeah, thank you.
So thank you. So I realize we're only speaking to one camera, but I think it's important, the information that's being brought out by volunteers, by activists, is important from your lips to the ears in City Hall to the people that can do something about this. And I think we're all united, and we will be broadening our outreach to make sure that come in 2 weeks, on April 27th, the official Denim Day, there will be a lot of people asking for action and to see solid results. Not only because of this backlog, but because there's a new law that went into effect on January 1st requiring the analysis of these kits be completed within 120 days. So thank you all for being here. I think we've got a lot of work to do in 2 weeks to educate a lot more people about this. I just want to recognize Kimberly Beatty from the Poway Unified School District is here. Thank you so much for joining us. And can I speak a little bit? Sure. Come on in. Estela de los Rios.
First of all, thank you, Lori, for inviting everyone here. And I'd like to just mention, since we're so close to the proximity of the border, we have a high volume of human trafficking. And I applaud Lori Saldaña's efforts for this Denim Day. She champions always social justice issues that apply to everyone here in our region. Sexual assault can mean any age, any gender, and it's true. They often go unnoticed, unresolved, unidentified. So it's appalling to learn how high the statistics are, and more appalling to know that the mayor and the city attorney have not addressed these rape kits. I encourage them to please to make this a priority, like Lori Saldaña. So again, this is a priority, not just for women, but for all ages. Human trafficking is one of the priority issues of our region. We are on the top 10 cities in the entire nation, and most of the victims are between the ages of 12 all the way up to 60 years old. And again, sexual assault has no respect to gender, age, or any type of crime. Thank you.
Let me, wait just a minute. I didn't get a copy of the agenda. Martha Sullivan is hosting us. She's the proprietor of this space, and please.
I just wanted to speak to, I've been working on a ballot measure to reform the City of San Diego's Citizens Review Board on Police Practices with 25 other community groups for the last year. And I just want to point out, relevant to this gathering here today, last year, the U.S. Department of Justice did an independent review of the San Diego Police Department at former Chief Lansdowne's request before he left. And this was focused on 9 sexual assault and misconduct cases involving San Diego police officers. And one of the findings of this report, I'm going to quote it because it's very important about the lack of supervision and the lack of leadership that we have in the city of San Diego for our police department. On a broad level, PERF, who was the contractor for the U.S. Department of Justice, did not identify any particular policy failure or common underlying factor that tied the misconduct cases together. Rather, it was gaps in policies and practices, a lack of consistent supervision at many levels, and a failure to hold personnel accountable that allowed misconduct to occur and go undetected for some time. Perhaps the most important lesson learned from this assessment is that the failure of the department's leaders to adequately address smaller problems led to much larger issues. It's very clear that the city of San Diego needs stronger leadership for our police department and to make sure that women and all victims of sexual assault and sexual misconduct are treated seriously and fairly. So again, I'm very grateful to Lori for putting a spotlight on this because it's really, this is what women care about here in San Diego. One of many things that women care about.
Thank you. All right. I think, thank you to our NBC.
I have some questions.
Oh, okay, excellent. So,
First of all, Lori, give me a little background on Denim Day.
Sure.
What is it and how did it start?
Denim Day started after a judge in Italy threw out a case against a man accused of rape, claiming that the judge believed because the woman who filed the claim was wearing tight jeans, that it was impossible for her to be sexually assaulted. She had to have assisted the rapist. And it was later overturned, and there was such an outcry that the Denim Day protests began and spread worldwide. So we now see observances in state capitals around the country and internationally, and but not so far in San Diego. So this is our first attempt, or our first initiative to begin the observance in San Diego.
Why is it an important day?
To remind people that there are still hurdles and obstacles to people who report these crimes to receive justice through our legal system, and to change the attitudes of a lot of people who are involved in investigating these crimes to make it more of a priority. And, you know, we have some new laws that went into effect this year, a new law, AB 1517, requiring a change to how these kits are processed as of January 1st. So it is an opportune time for the leaders in City Hall to have a very clear marker of improving their processing of these evidence kits to make sure that we are arresting violent criminals in San Diego.
If elected mayor, what will you do?
I will establish, among other things, a commission on women and looking at the local level. We have it at the countywide level, but I believe in San Diego, we're the biggest city in the region. I believe we need to put more of an emphasis on the needs of women in the city when we see more living in poverty, more women homeless, more women who are facing these assaults and not getting justice through our system. And I think we will partner with the county and with other cities and look regionally, what can we do to make the lives of women safer and provide more opportunities for women and girls to really have great lives here in our region.
Anything I haven't asked you with a question that you want to bring up?
Well, are there any,
I have a
again,
couple more questions.
if you'll put it together, I know you guys are hosting a debate in June, so if this is some background to help your folks prep for that, that's fine, go ahead. Do you have the questions for the other candidates as well?
For the two city attorney candidates.
Okay.
And you guys can kind of be, first of all, as kind of have seen in the current presidential campaign, nobody agrees on anything. But you two guys agree on this. Tell me why.
We agree on a lot, actually.
Yeah. Well, I think, this is Gil Cabrera, and I think a big reason for that is that, we're running for a professional office. In San Diego, we have a history of civility within the bar, and you've really seen that in the campaign. All of the candidates, frankly, get along very well. Where we agree, we're going to speak out and say it. I'm not going to be afraid to stand next to Brian on an important issue when the two of us will be able to get that message out more than just one of us. So that's going to be critically important to make sure we do that. Even if we are running against each other, it doesn't mean that we can't support smart, effective policies regardless of who's championing them.
Right.
Yep, I agree. I mean, this is something that it doesn't. I mean, Gil and I are both Democrats, but like I said earlier in my remarks, that this is a nonpartisan issue that I think everybody from every political spectrum can really get behind. We're living in the age of people watch CSI and they just assume that if a crime is committed, that there's all these forensic tests that take place and they can solve it. And can be the case in some cases if they actually test the evidence. But if it's just sitting in an evidence locker, it's just absurd that it's not being tested. And I think the public would be extremely outraged to learn this. So.
If either of you were elected city attorney, what would you do about it?
Sure. I mean, this is really under the purview of the mayor and the chief of police to allocate the adequate resources that need to go into processing this evidence. But as city attorney, I would do everything possible to not only influence making sure that takes place, but if there's any way also within the city attorney's own budget, there's a $45 million budget in that office. And if the mayor and the city council and the chief of police aren't going to put the adequate resources to it, I would look into a way that the city attorney's office could directly allocate resources into testing these kits, because it should absolutely be a priority. I had one of my small businesses broken into recently and had to go in to do a DNA swab, just have a Q-tip put in my mouth just to eliminate me as a potential source so they could test the DNA of the burglar. And that was, took time out of the day and was slightly invasive. And then I find out, a year later, they still haven't tested it. And that's just, that's irritating, but imagine if you've been raped and you have to sit there for 4 or 5 hours having samples taken from different parts of your body, and then it's still not being tested. So it's just absolutely absurd that there is this backlog and that the DNA evidence is being collected, but nothing's being done with it. Or I shouldn't say nothing, but it's taking a long time.
And just for my purpose, first and foremost, as the only one of 2 citywide elected officials, the biggest thing I can do is use my voice to bring the media, the public, an awareness to these types of issues, that we are failing as a city to protect victims. Secondly, as a prosecutor in the city, we will be moving our considerable resources to support the work of the Family Justice Center, which our former sergeant was pivotal involved in, as well as making sure that we're prosecuting these crimes, that we're diverting resources. And I agree, using the city attorney's office's budget is one step. Also using the city attorney's office resources to get other resources is the other step to make sure that we're actually not failing victims in this city.
And I just say, this is it's about leadership. I mean, these gentlemen are running to be leaders of the city attorney's office. Leadership in City Hall has been lacking in this. And so you can move around positions, you can bring in new people, but if you don't have leadership and direction saying these will be priorities for our people in San Diego who have been had crimes committed against them, you won't see a change. So I'm advocating for a change, and we have a barometer, or we have ways to measure if that change is going to happen very clearly.
This is a crime that needs speedy resolution. So, the counter argument be, well, we've collected the evidence, we're not throwing it away, we'll eventually get to it. But justice delayed is justice denied. And this is a crime that should be at the top of the list, and they have the evidence, and they should be testing it immediately and doing something with it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good questions. All right. Thanks.